Hello, my friends. Thanks for joining me today. We're going to be doing this sewing box that you have seen the pictures of. We're going to be doing this format, and I can't wait to share it with you. I'll give you all the cutting instructions as we go along, and what we're going to do is actually make it in this variation so that you can see the difference in the colors and how I did it. Now, I didn't actually film the part about decorating it, but I will tell you that all of the links are below for all of the products that came from Country Craft Creations. The die came from Heartfelt Creations at Country Craft Creations, and these are just outstanding gifts that just work for anyone. So let's get started. I'm going to dive right in, and we'll get going. All right, now what we're going to do, take a look at the project itself. I used a navy artisan cardstock to make this particular project. We're going to change it up a little bit. It's easier to see on a lighter color, so I'm going to use baby blue. First thing we're going to do is take a sheet of the baby blue in a 12 by 12. You know, the artisan cardstock is what we have to use because it bends so nicely and makes the hinges and the folds work so well. So now that I've got a scoreboard out, I'm going to score this. We're going to score it 3 different scores on each of the 4 sides. So our first score is going to be at 3/8, 1/2. Yes, I know that's an 1/8 inch gusset there, or an 1/8 inch margin there. And then again at 2.5. That was 3/8, 1/2, and 2.5. Now we're going to turn it, and we're going to score it again at 3/8. If I can keep it up there. 1/2, and 2.5. Three-eighths. 1/2, and 2.5. One last time. I think you've got it now. 3/8, 1/2, and 2.5. All right. It is difficult to see those score lines, but they are there. Now I'm going to take a finger blade and I'm going to cut this paper. So I'm going to use my finger blade, and I'm not going to use a side edge. I'm just going to cut it straight out. So here's what we're going to attempt to cut out. We're going to be cutting out flaps, and we're going to make our box shape that will make this particular shape here. Okay? So to do this, I'm going to take my paper, lay it on my cutting mat, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull it up so you can see it. Hopefully that's going to work. I'm going to go from this point here straight down. I'm then going to take it and miter it ever so slightly. Then I'm going to go to that next inside corner there, and I'm going to cut down at an angle to miter it. And then I'm going to take it and I'm going to go straight across right there. Let me show you. Let me bring it in so you can see what I'm doing. I'm just going to eyeball it. Going to go straight down through here. A nice little miter. Again from that inside point. And then straight across. Just like that. Now there's one other thing I have to do. I have to cut off to that second line. Look at here. You can see I cut straight across at the second line. Hopefully that'll make more sense now. Now I'm just going to go over to the other side and do the reverse of that. I'm going to go straight down, slight miter, and same corner across the way there, and then I'm going to turn it because I can't go sideways that direction. Just like that. And again to that second line. Very good. Now that we've done those two, we're going to turn it 180 degrees, and we're going to cut the exact same way on this side. Let me pull out a little so you can see what I'm talking about. Okay. So we're going to go straight down again. Miter it just a little bit. Again, in that inside corner, and then straight across, and cut to that second line there. I don't think I cut that quite straight enough, so I'm going to go back. And then I'm going to cut here at this second line. Other side, straight down, miter. Again over here, and again straight across, and then we're going to cut that flap on that second line. Outstanding. Now we have all our pieces cut out. We can move forward now. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to actually fold those 3/8 inch folds. Use my scoring tool, score that down. I'm going to do it all the way around. Now the reason why I'm showing you this is because it's hard to make that narrow 1/8 inch margin there. But trust me, this is the easiest way to do it. Okay, now that I've got the 3/8 inch all the way around, I'm going to go up one more and make it a 1/2 inch by turning up that extra 1/8 of an inch. It works much better if you do that 3/8 inch first. I'll go all the way around and do it. So we've only used one piece of paper, no chipboard, and we're going to make the box out of this, the box form, and then we'll fill in. Now I'm going to raise it up one more time and do the 2.5 inch score line all the way around. And yes, I'm going to get these flaps, do them too. The crisper you make these lines, the easier the box will take shape. And one last piece here. Voila. Now we put all the flaps on the inside. We're going to take these two pieces and turn them out. Can you see where I'm turning them out away from the inside of the box? That will give me room to put the chipboard in a minute. It just gets them out of the way. So I've got my flaps. See how my box is going to take shape? Isn't that great? Now, I want these flaps to nicely mesh to make a crisp corner through here. So I'm going to take my glue. I'm going to simply add it to a flap. And I'm going to make my edge nice and crisp. If you have any extra showing, wipe it off. Now I'm going to make sure it sticks in there nicely. Score it down so I have a nice crisp corner. I'm going to go to the opposite side, do the same thing. We're going to do all 4 flaps the same way. Again, make sure my corner is nice and sharp. It's easiest if I press it down and move it just a little bit. See how crisp my corner is there? That's what we're looking for. Now let's do the last 2 flaps. See how quickly this is moving? Doesn't take long at all to make this. Now again, I'm going to bring this up. Press it down, make sure it's looking good. And the last one. Press it down, and all 4 corners now are done. Cool, huh? All right. Now that we've done that, we're going to actually insert chipboard pieces. The first chipboard piece is going to be 1 15/16 by 7. I need 2 of those. This is the 1 of 2, and this is the 2 of 2. Okay? 1 15/16 by 7 inches. I'm going to put that in just like this to test my chipboard to make sure it's in the right, that it's cut correctly. If it bows out, it will misshape our box. That bows just a little bit. Depending on how tight I made those corners, it may be better on the other side, which it is. Looks good. So I put the 2 7 inches in on the sides that have the flaps glued. Now we're going to take 2 pieces that are 1 15/16, same width, but this one's a little shorter by 1/8 of an inch. It's 6 7/8. We need 2 of those, 1 15/16 by 6 7/8. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to lightly press it in there to see if they stay and if the box is a good fit. Oh, it's wonderful. We're good to go, guys. Now, if I were to take these flaps and lay them over, you can see that's where that 1/8 inch piece comes in handy there. Can you see it? Makes a nice squared off piece. But the rest of our chipboard would show. So we have to cover that chipboard. We're going to cover it with some more of the baby blue artisan cardstock. And for the shorter pieces, I believe this is the paper. Nope. For the shorter pieces, we're going to cut them exactly 2 7/16 of an inch by 7 inches. Now to cover these shorter pieces, the one that is 1 15/16 by 6 7/8. We're going to cut it to the length of the 6 7/8, but we're going to add a 1/2 inch to the width. So it's going to be actually cut to 2 7/16 of an inch by 6 7/8. And then we're going to attach that piece directly onto here so that when we put it in our box, it blends right in. See? All right. Now the one that is 7 inches, let me find my board that's 7, it's still in the box. The board that's 7 inches, we're going to cut it the same way. We're going to add a 1/2 inch. So from 1 15/16, we're going to change that measurement to 2 7/16, and the same length, 7 inches. So you're going to need 2 of those as well. Now all I'm going to do is either use some score tape or glue and attach this to all 4 of my pieces using the right length and rolling that over. So let's do one together, and then I'll do the others off camera. So the first one I'm just going to do simply taking the glue, the art glitter glue, and I'm just doing the flat panel at this point. So now I take my 1 15/16, I think that's the panel I picked up, and just making sure I've got the right measurements here. Yep, that's the 7. So I'm going to lay this down just like this. Take it to the very edge. Burnish that down. Now I'm going to kind of train it and walk it around the edge because I want it to be nice and uniform. So I'm going to take my burnishing tool and press down just a little bit to square that edge off. Now I'm going to take one stream of the art glitter glue down the middle at that hinge mark, and then I'm going to continue putting the glue all the way across, rolling that over, pressing it down firmly, wiping off any excess. Nice and clean, run this over the edge, and that will make a beautiful insert piece. And what we're going to be doing then is inserting that right here and bending that over it. Won't that make a nice, neat inside to the box? Okay, so I'm going to drop off the camera for a moment and go ahead and wrap all of my pieces. Okay, I went through and I covered all of the little inserts like I said I would. And then I went and put a piece of the tape, score tape on the back. I used the 1 inch wide, and I'll use glue to do around the top of that. So now we're going to take our longer pieces. We're going to pull the tape off. We're going to take the glue, apply it. Now this is the 1 15/16 by 7 inches, and I'm going to apply it right in here, down into the corner, over the flaps, with the bare chipboard showing at the top. Now this is hard to do while I'm trying to hold it in my hand, so I'm going to press it down. And now it makes a nice, firm, solid edge. Okay, so now I'm going to do the other 7 inch one. I'm going to remove the score tape. This is where fingernails come in handy. I unfortunately don't have any. I'm again going to apply glue where I don't have score tape. Okay, and I'm going to apply it over the flaps again, down here in the corner, with the chipboard edge that's not covered showing. And let me push this down in there. You can see I'm actually pushing it right into that corner. Okay, now I'll score that down. Before I insert these, I'm going to stick them in and make sure they fit, because if I need to shave off a little bit of that chipboard to make it fit correctly, I need to do it before I put the glue on. It didn't fit as well as I would like on the other side. Ooh, on this side it fits nicely. That comes from how I did my corners. I may have gotten my corners just a little bit tighter on that other side. Okay, and it looks good to me, because when I put over the edges, it'll be a perfect shape. Excellent. So now this did wrinkle up a little bit, so I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to trim it just a smidgen. I had a little bit of paper sticking over the edge. Let's see if that works better. Oh yes, much, much, much better. Now on this one, I went ahead and did 2 layers of score tape. Because when I first thought about doing this, I wasn't sure if I wanted to use the glue or the score tape. So I'll add a little bit of glue to make sure it holds. And then I'm going to insert it down into this side. Again, I'm pressing it down in there so there's not a seam with the chipboard showing on the top. Okay, pressing in my corners, making a nice solid fit. Oh yes, that's looking good, guys. Now let's do the one last side here. Take off my score tape wrap. Add a little bit of my glue. I panicked. I thought maybe I didn't turn the camera on. That has happened. I've gotten the whole project made and realized I forgot to turn the camera on. Had to do it over. All right, now, once again, naked side up. Fit it snugly into that corner. Yes, I want it tight. And then I'm going to press it down. Excellent. Look how shaped it is. Isn't that wonderful? Now, the last thing I have to do is wrap this over like this. It really makes no difference which one you do first, okay? You may have to miter that just a smidgen if it doesn't want to tuck in neatly. So what I do is I roll it over, I square it up. If I need to miter just a smidgen, hang on, through my glove. All right, I'm just going to barely miter that. Because I don't want a lot of fabric showing. Okay, perfect. And then let's go to the other side. Again, I'm just going to barely miter it. Here and there. Okay, now it should come over nicely. I'm going to add my glue. Bend this over, pressing it down firmly. Press it on the inside, wipe away any extra. See how neatly it looks? Make sure it's down good. If you want to put clamps on that to make sure it holds nicely, you can. I haven't had any problems with it coming loose. I mean, that looks amazing. Now let's do the opposite side. See if we need to miter a little bit. I believe we do. Just a little bit there. I'm doing it from that corner just a smidgen. Okay, to do a test run. Yep, looks good. So once again, I'm going to put my glue in there. Lay this over, pressing it good into that corner there. Burnish it down, get the air pockets out, and then go across it to make sure that you square off those edges. Can you see how square they are? Nice and crisp. That's what we're wanting. So you want to make sure that you get that so your lid will lay nice and flat on there. All right, next one is going to be just like this. I'm going to go off camera and do that again. I'm going to miter my corners and glue it over. All right, I have finished gluing down my flaps. Look how nice and neat my box looks. All my sides measure up and are the same height. That's what we needed. If we hadn't done that 1/8 inch score there, it wouldn't have worked as well. Now, I know there's no chipboard on the bottom, That's okay, because on the bottom of this box, we're going to put a chipboard bottom to it. This is what this is here. So we don't need it right now. We're just trying to make sure we hold a perfect box shape. Okay? So that's our box form. Now we're going to start on our wrap. Now that we have the box frame completed, we're going to make the wrap that goes around the box. And to do that, we're going to take our artisan cardstock. I'm using the baby blue again. And I took a 12 by 12 inch piece and I cut this to 8.5 by 12. 8.5 by 12. Then the second piece I need is going to be cut to 8.5 by 6 3/4. 8.5 by 6 3/4. Now that we have both of those cut, we need to score them. On the 8.5 by 12, we're going to put the 12 inch piece in, and we're going to score at the 1/2 inch. Now let's put in our 6 3/4 inch side at the top and score this at a 1/2 inch. Now that they're scored, we're going to be overlapping those two score lines, the two 1/2 inch pieces. Okay? We're going to tape those two together. So let's take our score tape. I know it's a 1/2 inch, but just to be safe, I'm going to take my 3/8 of an inch and go over top of that. Burnish it down good. And I'm going to pull that backing off and put just a little bit of glue on the very edge. That way I have a good firm, there. Lost my train of thought there for a sec. Okay, now I'm going to overlap these two, matching up my score line. And I want to make sure it's straight, so I'm going to use the grid on my mat here to help me get that perfectly straight. All right, that's straight there. And it looks like it's perfectly straight there, so I will anchor that down. Now I'll go ahead and erase those marks. It really won't matter because we're going to cover it up, but just to be safe. Okie-doke. Now, what we're going to be doing is scoring this again so that we can find where we need to position these chipboard pieces here. This will be the bottom of the box, the side, and the top. You're going to need to use the heavy chipboard here. We're going to have two pieces at 7 3/16 by 7 3/16. We need two of those pieces, and that's a heavy chipboard. Then we need one piece that is 2 inches by 7 3/16. One that is 2 inches by 7 3/16. So let's get those ready. Now we're going to score this so that we know where to lay these pieces of chipboard. So I'm going to take my scoreboard. Okay. Now, this is 18 1/8 inches long. So we're going to take it and we're going to score it in different places. We're going to, on that 18th and 1/8 inch side, we're going to score at the 1/2 inch, the 7 3/4, the 8 inch, the 10 1/8, and the 10 3/8. So on the long side, we're going to score it 5 times. 1/2 inch, 7 3/4, 8, 10 1/8, and 10 3/8. then we'll turn it. So let's go ahead and get those scores done now. Let's see where I can stick that it won't be in the way. Okay, so we're going to score at a 1/2 inch. We're going to score at 7 3/4 inch. We're going to score at 8 inches, and that's going to leave a 1/4 inch gusset there. Then we're going to score at 10 1/8. And again at 10 3/8. Leaving that little piece right there. Then we're going to turn it around, and we're going to score a 1/2 inch at the other side. So I need to add that on there, plus 1/2. Okay. Good job. So if you were to look at that now, you'd see that this wrap will fit between here and here, and between here and here. Okay? Perfect. Now we're going to turn it lengthwise. And this is a little more challenging because you do have to do this the entire length of it. So I'm going to do 5/8 as far down as I can go, which is 12 inches, and 7 7/8. Okay. So when you turn it around to the other side, when you do 5/8 and 7 7/8, it comes out exactly even with that first one. That way I have my lines meet in the middle with no problem. Okay? So let's move this out of our way. Now we're going to fold all of our score lines, and I'm going to start with these 1/4 inch ones in the middle. Can you see them there? Okay, let me spread out just a little bit. So I'm going to have to be very careful about doing those. They're a little harder to do. So I'll fold it there. And I will fold it again on that second one. Gently pressing it over so I can get my gusset there. Excellent. And then I'm going to move over from this pair here to this pair and fold those. Keeping my paper straight so it stays lined up. I want these edges to match. That's very important. And this one's a little tougher, so I'm going to turn it around. Okay. Now I'm going to finish scoring and folding all these lines, and I'll be right back. So now that I've got my wrap artisan cardstock folded and creased on all the score lines, I'm going to take our chipboard and I'm going to attach some of the score sheets so that I can get that to lay flat onto our wrap. So I have my chipboard covered with my score tape or with my score sheets. And I went ahead and I peeled back a corner because I always embarrass myself by not being able to get those off. So that's why that's done like that. Now before I stick these down, I'm going to go ahead and miter my corners. So I'm going to take my scissors. And the only place I'm going to miter is right here across that X. And I'm going to be out just a smidgen from it. I don't want to get really, really, really close to that. I want to leave it out just a little bit. Okay. Now I got my corners already done. And I'm ready to stick down. And Yes, I have that piece where I taped them together on my right. That just seems logical for me because this wrap is going to go like this over the top of this box. See, the wrap will go, let me move that out of the way. The wrap will go like that. So you won't see that fold on the top. So here we go. I'm going to do now, I'm going to stick my chipboard down. I think I'll start with the center piece first. And because I have a little groove there that doesn't have tape, I'm actually going to tape that, or glue that, I mean. Okay. Now I'll peel these off. Peel this off. And I'm going to position this. There are 2 folds, and I want to position this right between them up to that line. I'm going to fold the paper over, so I don't want to go over that line. So I'm going to get it on there nice and straight, just like that. Press it down. Okay, so that this fold line will fold and this one will fold. Now let's do the front. Let's first test it to make sure it's exactly right. Looks great. So I'll take this off and I will stick it down. Again, I want it to where the top will fold over. My corner won't show if I get it just right. Perfect. Press that down. And then I'm going to do the same thing back here. Now, there's just a hair of extra space there, so when I get ready to fold that over, I will probably crease it just a little bit more. So I'm going to pull this off. Again, watching where I'm placing it on that corner, because I don't want it to go over that line and want to stay away from the corner. All right, off just a smidgen, but not bad. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to be folding this over, folding that over, but to attach these down, we're going to have to actually use, let's use our 1/2 inch tape. If I can find the end of it. I'm going to put it just on the board. Just like that. Okay, top and bottom. And I am trying to stay in the camera frame so you can see what I'm doing. All right, I'm also going to go down here. Don't want to overlap the tapes. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side here. Good. So we're going to start first with our bottom. Peel that one off. Peel this one off. And peel that one. I'm going to take my glue And I'm going to just ever so lightly do a very thin, coating of the glue right on that edge. Don't want to get it in the crease there. Now I'm going to bend it over like that. Just like that. Getting my crease in there. Good. Now let's spin it around and do the other side. Again, same thing. Pull off my tape backing. Okay, take my glue, very thin coating down through there. I just want to make sure it's anchored very well. Okay, and again, going to take it, and I like to slide it just a little bit on that end, because if I do that, it squares it a little bit tighter. And then press down, scooting it away from me. And turn that over. Awesome. Looking very good. See, now our wrap's working beautifully, just like it's supposed to. We're going to do one more after this one. This will be our back side. Again, I'm going to put my glue down. Good. And this time I'm going to use, I think it's Kim Randall's method of where she tucks in that corner just a little bit, because I want it to be tight. So I'm bending it down just a smidgen. And I'm going to put just a little bit of glue on there, just to make sure. Again, pressing it down. Nice. And that gives us a nice smooth corner. All right, let's do the same thing on the other side. Remove our backing. Put just a smidgen of glue down that running piece there. Just a little bit on the edge here to make sure it holds. Now there's not much to tuck here. I am going to tuck just a smidgen there. Okay, bend that over and press. And I want to make sure it's nice and tight. Don't worry if you see chipboard, because we're going to cover this with a liner. See, I cut my miter just a little bit too much there, so I have got a little bit of chipboard showing, which is not going to be a problem, because this is going to be the top of our box, and we're going to be putting a liner in there. So I'm going to go around now, burnish that very well. It's a big piece, isn't it? And I'm going to square off my edges. Love to square off my edges. I like them nice and crisp. Am I OCD? Absolutely. Square off my edges. You don't want to rub so hard you tear the paper, but that's the beautiful thing about the artisan paper. The fibers hold up to this abuse. Very nice. I might want to touch up a couple of those corners just to make sure they look nice. Okay, now we're ready to do the inside liner. All right, now that we've got our wrap completed, we're going to create our liner that will go in on top of this. make sure you have the overlapped paper here on the right hand side. Okay, that's going to be the bottom of your box. Now we're going to cut a piece of the artisan cardstock, and we're going to cut that to 12 inches long by 7 3/16. So we're going to cut it 12 inches long and then by 7 3/16. Now that we have it cut, we're going to score it, because we got to score so that it will fit into those two slots there. So we're going to score it at 7 1/4, 7 1/2, 9 5/8, and 9 7/8. That was 7 1/4, 7 1/2, 9 5/8, and 9 7/8. Now we're going to crease it, fold it, so that it will, keeping my edges completely straight. I want my papers to show up nice and straight. So I'll put this one here, keeping that edge completely straight. That's why we scored it, so that we could get perfectly straight creases. Otherwise, you just kind of haphazardly do it. And one more here. Okay, and there are our score lines. Now I'm going to apply tape on the chipboard pieces. So I'll tape this down, then I will tape the center down, and then lastly I will tape this piece down. This is not going to be seen when we set our box on here. You will not see it. It will look great just like it is. Okay, so let me apply the tape, and we'll glue that or stick it down in place. All right, I have secured the tape down and I've burnished it. And I'm going to pull the backing off now. I will tell you, I like to combine both the gluing and the taping, because that box could get heavy and it may pull apart if you're not careful. That's why we use both of these. It will secure it much better. So I'm going to pull the backing off of this piece here. Okay. I'm going to apply glue around the edge. I'm not going to put it on the in-between, in this little groove here, because I don't want it to cause it to harden and keep it from bending. And you can see I'm applying some glue along the way to make sure this holds firmly. A little bit more through there and down this side here. Okay. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to fold over these two pieces so I can line it up nice and straight. Now I'm going to have to stand up, because this is going to be a little harder to do sitting down. It's a tight fit and the tape is unforgiving, so I've got to be exact. Looks wonderful. If I have any extra glue, I want to go ahead and remove that. Okay. Very good. Looks wonderful. Excellent. Now I'm going to remove this piece. Okay. And you can see I'm going to add some glue on it as well. Not getting it down in between the recessed areas. Okay, I think we're good there. I'm keeping it so that it won't just flop over. Bring that over. Line it up. Secure it down. Kind of indent that a little bit so that it's training. Good. Now let's do this last one. Do it slowly, one at a time, and you get a nice uniform look. Okay, and I'm going to put a little bit of glue right down this edge. Okay, now I'm going to press this down into the groove and lay that over. Bend it, train it. Very nice. You can see that it folds nicely. Okay. That's great. Just making sure I've got it nice and tight. Must have, where I put that glue on top of the tape there, it's showing, but it'll squash out. All right. So now our box is going to go in here like this, and this will fold over top of it. Okay, now I changed my mind. Instead of using the tape, I used the rest of my score sheets, cut them up and stuck them down. This is all I have left now. So I'm going to burnish that down good. Now let me show you. The box will be sitting back far enough that the edges of that tape will not show, okay? And the back of it will fold up, okay? So when you get ready to position your box, you're going to position it almost align with this, just enough back that it will fold up on that edge. So I'm going to pull the backing off of my tape. And then I'm going to add a little bit of glue around the very edges just to make sure that I have a nice fit. Okay. Oops, that was a little far over. I think I'll wipe that off. It does dry clear, so I don't have to worry. I just want to make sure this stays down. And again, I want to do a little row back here. When I'm on camera, my hands shake so bad. I'm not very good at that. Okay, I am now ready to put my box on. So, here we go. I'm going to make sure I have enough border at the top and the bottom, and that this will come up. I want it to be even. Sorry, I'm trying to get that. And then I'm pressing down on the inside of the box. just like that. Now my lid will come up and over. Oh, that's lovely. Look how nice and squared it is. Now that we've got our box form completed and attached to our lid, we're going to make our dividers. We're going to use chipboard cut into 3 different sizes, but need 4 pieces. The first one's the largest. It's 1 3/4 by 6 7/8. It will go like this. The next one is the same height, 1 3/4 by 3 inches. So it'll go like this. Then we're going to have 2 shorter ones up on the front end, or you could reverse this. The pattern makes no difference. You can use it any way you wish. You need 2 of them at 1 inch by 6 inches and 13/16 of an inch. So 1 by 6 and 13/16, and they will go in like this. The reason why these 2 are shorter is because we're going to be placing a magnetic board on top of those, and we'll be needing those to be a little lower, so our pins and our needles will be down below the box edge. So now let's cover them. Now we're going to cover our dividers. The very first divider we're going to work with, there's 2 of them, and they're 1 inch by 6 and 13/16. 2 of them at 1 and 6, 13/16. We're going to need 2 of those. Okay, and on those covers, we're going to need to cut our paper, the baby blue artisan, to 2 1/8 by 6 7/8. Yes, I know that's just a smidgen longer than our divider, but it'd be better for it to be a little long and have us trim it than to not reach the sides of your box. So again, we need 2 pieces of paper that are 2 1/8 inches by 6 7/8 to cover this one. Then we're going to need the one divider that's larger, the 1 3/4. See if I can get it focused. 1 3/4 by 6 7/8. 1 3/4 by 6 7/8. We need to cut the paper to match it at 3 5/8 by 6 7/8. 3 5/8 by 6 7/8. And that's just one piece of that one. And then the last one, the divider itself is 1 3/4 by 3. So we need to cut our paper to 3 1/16 inch by 3 5/8. Again, that was 3 1/16 inch by 3 5/8. Now let's cover these pieces. To do that, all we're going to do is take our art glitter glue, and I'm going to put that on to my chipboard. Just like that. And I'm going to press it down on my paper. Yes, I know, I almost messed up, put it the wrong direction, didn't I? Notice I'm leaving a little bit of paper on both sides showing. Then I'll smooth that out. See, I left a hair of paper there and a hair there, so that when I put it in the box, I can trim that if it's too long, but it's better to have it than not. The next one, I'm going to add this big one to the paper. I'm letting that other one dry because it will pop off if I'm not careful. So I'm going through and I'm layering all of these first. Okay, just like that. Let that one dry. Do another one. This is the 1 by 6 13/16. It's going on the 2 1/8 by 6 7/8. So we'll stick it down like that. Excellent. Turn that over, smooth it out. And I'll do the last one off camera. And we're going to go back to the first one. I'm trying to save you some time, but do the other one. Remember, you've got 2 of these. Now, on this one that we did first, I'm going to take it and slowly bend it so my paper fibers are trained, scoot it just a little, and then bend it on over. It should fit perfectly. If you have a little excess paper there, we can trim it off, but it's better to have it than not. So I'm going to put a little bit of glue in the joint. Then I'm going to put it on my chipboard. Again, I'm going to fold that over, sliding it just a little bit to secure that. And I always like to square out my edges. If you have a little extra glue showing, just wipe it off, because nobody's going to see this end or this bottom end. And I'll be honest with you, I may leave that paper, I may not. I'll see how it fits in a minute. All right, so we're going to let that dry. Moving on to the next one. Again, we're going to train our paper before we add the glue. Almost messed up, didn't I? Okay. Bend that just a little bit there. You want it to be trained. Make sure it fits good. This is the other side. I want to square that off so it'll look nice and neat. All right, let's look at this one. All right, there's a little bit too much paper there. It is showing a lot of paper. So before I add the glue, I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to trim off a little bit of that extra paper. Notice I haven't glued it yet, but I'm holding it together so I can see where to trim. Okay. Okay, that should work. Now I've got a little bit of a rough edge there, so I'm going to trim that down. Just like that. Now that's looking really good. I forgot to trim a smidgen off this end. I know you don't like me whispering. Okay, now we're going to take our glue, put it in the joint, cover our chipboard. Okay. Now, I need to move it just a little bit there to secure that. Then fold it on over. And again, I'm not worried about the bottom or the sides. That won't make any difference when I get the box together. And my last one, if you want to pinch or hold that with a clamp, you can, but I think they're pretty solid. Now this one I'm going to bend and train. I've already done the other one, so this is my last one. So I'm going to bend it and train it. See how our paper looks. Oh, it looks great. Okay. I'd rather err on the side of too much paper than too little, because everybody cuts a little different on their chipboard. That looks good to me. So when it gets down to 1/16 of an inch, always go bigger than smaller. You can always trim it down, especially if you don't measure well at that inch mark. All right, fold that over, smooth it on over. Good deal. Square my corner. Yes, press it down. Throw it in the floor. Teasing. Okay, so I've got this one and this one done, this one done, and this one. So let me show you how they're going to look in our box. Hopefully they're going to fit just fine. Let me spread out just a smidgen there so you can see what I'm doing. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put this in. Wow, that fits beautifully. Now this is the other side, so I'm going to have to move it just a smidgen to do this smaller divider. Now you can make the compartment smaller and then larger on this side. You can put it down here if you would rather. The sky's the limit, guys. You can make it any way you want to. I think this time I'm going to do it in reverse. I'm going to do it this way, just like that. Then I'm going to take my little dividers, put them in, one here and one here. Okay, now this one's a snugger fit, so I'm going to move it up because the middle of the box gives a little bit more than the very end. All right, this one is still snug, so I'm going to trim some of this edged paper. Can you see it in there? There's just a little bit of extra paper, so I'm going to trim a little bit of that off. Okay, now let's see if it goes in there. Oh, perfect. You do not want the chipboard to bow, so if it's bowing, trim it down a smidgen. Now on the camera, I can see this one is still a little bit bowed right there. So I think I'll trim it just a hair more. This time on the opposite side. Let me turn this over so I can get the pieces out. Look, my divider's even stayed when I turned it upside down. Okay. Now, if you choose, you can make all the dividers this height instead of this lower. Remember, we're going to be doing in a few minutes a tray to go in here. So, the tray itself, I want to make sure it fits. Looky there, fits perfectly. So if we cut everything right, we should be good to go. Now, I've got my inserts in. Now, to glue these, there's a very easy way of doing it. All you do is take it out. I'm going to use this long one first. Well, heck, I need to leave that in so I can measure it correctly. All right, so I'm going to leave that one there to go by. And then I'm going to take my glue and I'm going to run it down my edges. Oops, sorry, I was off camera. I'm not very good at doing a straight line under a camera, am I? Okay. I can be heavy with this because the art glitter glue does dry clear. And it will hold this snugly in place. Okay. Now that I've got that, I'm going to insert it, but I'm going to be careful not to touch the walls till I'm ready to go in. I want to make sure that this piece here can fit. If I don't do that, it won't fit all the way around. I need to make sure it's a little more snug. Okay, now I'm going to take my glue and I'm going to go right up the edge, just a hairline, and again along the bottom. Kind of like caulking. When it dries, you won't notice it. Now let me see if it's straight. Looks good. Now, the question comes up, do I need to do both sides? If you've got it straight and you're comfortable with it and you've wiped off all your excess glue, I would not, I don't believe, do the back side. If you want to do the back side, you can. Now, for clamps, you can't clamp it, okay? But what I can do is I can do this. Oops, sorry. My light went off. I can hold it straight with these clamps like this. The middle one is being snug then. And that'll put a little bit of pressure. I would recommend that you do apply a little bit of pressure. See how I'm holding my little fingers against the side of the box? That will also keep it from bowing out. So I've got to hold it for just a few moments till it starts drying. Again, I'm going to check my separation piece here. I'm good. Yeah, it's going to work fine. Now, while that's starting to dry, I'm going to go ahead and do this little piece so I can hold both of these taller pieces at the same time and let them dry a little. Okay, so here we go. You can measure this to get it centered. I just kind of eyeball it. And then I hold it firmly in place, making sure it's nice and straight. Now the camera's directly overhead, so I can see that a little bit easier. And I'll just hold that for a minute. If you have any extra glue, wipe it off. If you want to run a little bead of the glue up the sides, go ahead. when you get done, that will dry clear. You don't want to do a big gob of it, though. You want it to be a fine line. If you're in doubt, take your stylus, push it in just a little bit, wipe off that excess glue. There we go. Now I'm holding this straight up and down, I hope. All right. I'm going to go off camera for a few minutes and let that go ahead and dry. Okay, it's just about dry, so I'm going to move on to my 2 shorter dividers. And again, I'm going to double check and make sure this fits inside. It does. We're good. All right, I'm going to now turn it so I can get to these other 2 dividers. And we're going to go ahead and do the back one first, the exact same way. Oh, and notice I did not allow enough paper on this one. So it's actually got a bare piece of chipboard showing. It will not show in the placement that I'm going to put it. So I didn't change it. I thought you'd like to see that you can still use it even if you make an error. So I'll go through and do this side here and that one. Okay, now I'm going to place this one back here. Push it down. Line it up. You will have a hard time getting it in without having glue showing. So wipe off that glue. Put it in straight. Hold it just a moment or two here, pushing on the sides to place it. All you're wanting to do is make sure this is straight so that it will hold the divider on the cover. And I use my stylus tool to get the excess glue out of the corners. I'm going to put just a small bead down through there. Good. And I'm going to do it on the back side this time. Okay. Take my stylus tool and smooth that out. I'm ready to go caulk my kitchen now. Okay. That should hold. Pressing it. I'm going to put the other one in real quick so that I can hold both of them at the same time. Then we'll have to take a break and let all of this dry before we proceed with the next part of the filming. Attaching anything else, but I can be working on that magnet cover while this is drying, is what I'm trying to say. Now let's get this one in. I'm going to kind of center it here. Good. Make sure it's kind of straight. Wipe off the excess. Got a little bit down in there. Actually, that looks pretty darn perfect, guys. It does. Very good. Okay, so I don't have to wipe anything else off. Let's set this aside and let it dry, okay? All right, I'm going to set that out of the picture, and we're going to let that one dry while we get our cover ready. Notice on the cover, I used black chipboard. I did not cover it here. I did not cover it here, and I did not cover it there. If you don't have black chipboard, take a marker and just mark all 3 sides. This one I did cover, okay? We're going to wrap it just like we did our dividers. We're going to wrap these pieces here as well, the same as we did our dividers. And we'll be attaching magnets under those. So let me get our papers together, and we're going to make this little cover to go on top of those dividers. We're going to cover the divider cover. It's the one that slides in on top of the short dividers. And just so that you'll know, you'll need to measure from here to here and from here to here to make sure that you've got your dividers in the right spot. See, this one does fit, but it's a little snug. In fact, it's a little bit too wide for where I placed everything. So I cut my chipboard down, sorry for the jiggle there, and to be honest with you, I cut it even shorter than I would need to cut it because I thought it's just going to sit on top and then lift out. So we want to be sure and cut it smaller so it slides in there easily, okay? It's going to be supported with these dividers, so it can be smaller. If I let go, I'll have a hard time getting it back out. So I'm going to put that to the side. So measure yours, cut a piece of paper, make sure it fits perfectly to the measurements you have, then double it and add a smidgen for the thickness of your chipboard. So we're going to be wrapping it like this. And I use the black black chipboard. I like the black edge. I think it looks a little more finished, but you can use any color of chipboard you wish. I cut this chipboard to 3 inches by 5/8 by 6 inches and 13/16. I said that wrong. Let me say it again. 3 5/8 by 6 13/16. Okay? And then try it in your box to make sure it's going to fit. If you need to, you'll have to either go smaller or larger. Now, for the measurements I have here, the paper is going to be 7 3/8 across by 6 13/16 up. That was 7 3/8 by 6 13/16. Okay? And of course, I'll put all my writing on the inside, but we're going to do virtually the same thing. But before you glue that down, look here, I put a ribbon pull so I wouldn't have any trouble of pulling that out. Take a piece of seam binding, cut it about 8 inches, and I forgot to cut it, so I'm going to cut it real quick and I'll be right back. I was going to match up my seam binding to this, and these are the blues that Country Craft Creation has, and I believe this one right here will be my best match. I don't always do this, but if I don't have a whole roll, sometimes I will save them like this. This is actually, let me scoot out a little. This is actually that vinyl roll that you can do for shelf liners. I go to the dollar store and I buy a roll of it. The reason why I get that is because I can take my pins and stick them in with no problem, and it keeps my edges from getting really raveled. And then I just group them by color. Otherwise, I take my seam binding and I put it like this so that I have it on the big rolls. One day I will have all colors, but I only order one roll per order and trying to get them. And obviously this is going to be one I use a lot because it's almost gone on my roll here. So we'll get some more of that. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some white liner tape. I know everybody likes to use white liner tape. I'm going to cut me a piece and cut me another piece. And I'm going to stick it right down in the middle. Now, if you're one of these people that love for things to be exact, take your ruler, measure it, make sure it is in the middle. We're sticking this down to the chipboard, guys. Let's see here. It should be right at 6.5. So let me see. I think that's about right, actually. Then I cheat. The second piece, all I do is I take it and look on the back and stick it down. There we go. Now I'm going to take my backing off. Try to pull in a little closer. I know y'all didn't enjoy seeing my messy room behind me. And I'm going to stick this down. I'm going to leave a loop so I can pull it out. And I'm going to pull this one off. Speaking of ribbon, if you haven't seen how I organize or how I do my swatches of ribbons, I could show you that real quick too. This is how I do my ribbon for Country Craft Creations. That's why I have all the colors. I like to be able to pull them and look on the paper and see if it matches. It just helps me get a visual. See, there's a blue. This is how the blue bow would look on it. And then I label them. And I like that a lot because it allows me to see both a bow and a straight edge against the paper that I'm decorating, so I can see if it matches or not. And then I put them on a little O-ring like this and hang it up, and that's how I do my ribbon swatches. I have a swatch for everything. Artisan cardstock, ribbons, inks, you name it. All right, so this is how it's going to look. I'm going to kind of press it down with my bone folder or my crease tool. Now, when I get ready to place it on here, this ribbon will be hidden by the paper. So I'm going to go ahead and glue this down. This is so much fun doing these videos. I really enjoy it. I like it better, though, when my glue works. One of these days, I'm going to be like the masters, where I don't have to do a prototype, and I can just fly by the seat of my pants and entertain you guys and have everything. Just think of an idea, cut the papers, and go for it. Nope, I have to do a prototype and trial and error several times. For every paper I buy, I generally buy 2 or 3 extras so that I have plenty, because I know me. I will boo-boo and change my mind about how I want it to work. Not necessarily boo-boo, but have a creative brainstorm that I want to use. All right, I'm lining that up so I don't see any of the black on the front. And I'll smooth that down. I'm going to bend that over. Got glue on my fingers. I'm trying to get that off. Bend that over just a bit. I better wait because it's going to pop it off at the other side. We're also going to wrap our little pieces of chipboard there. And what I did for the magnet bars, I did the same thing. You can wrap these exactly the same way. But since the magnet bars are going to be seen on the sides, I did it a little different. When I wrapped it, I actually wrapped like this and glued it because you're not going to see the bottom. So we're going to do that in a minute, and I'll give you those measurements. All right, that should be dry enough. Now I can go ahead and wrap that on over. And you know from my earlier mention about dividers, it's better to have too much paper than not enough. So I'm going through and I'm smoothing that out. Squaring off those edges. I don't like them round. I like to have a crisp, clear cut edge to it. All right. Now you can see there's a little bit of paper that's showing there. It's about 1/16 of an inch, maybe more. So I'm going to take my paper trimmer, trim that down real quick. Just going to shave a hair off. And in crafting terms, that means about 1/16 of an inch. Now, when I fold that over, it looks great. And if my fingers were clean, it would be better. This is why I use black paper, so you can't see my smudges. Okay. I'm going to put some glue along that crease, just like that. Put it heavily on top of my chipboard, including the ribbon. I want it to hold tight. And I don't have to worry about putting the magnets under that. And the reason why is because they're hidden by the whole piece, so you won't see the magnets. Pull that over, smooth it down. Oh, that looks great, guys. That looks awesome, except for my fingerprint. Let me get a wipe. See if I can get that off. Okay, got it. While I'm at it, I'll wipe my fingers. I use baby wipes a lot. And to keep them moist, I take a medicine bottle and I just pop them in there. That way when I'm cleaning ink off of a stamp or something, I've got a surplus of extra wet wipes. Or if I've got glue all over myself and can't get it out, I can use that. Plus, look here, you don't even have to put the lid on it. If you just turn it upside down, it seals against the cutting mat, and voila, I can just grab it and pull a wet wipe out when I'm using them. Okay, so now our divider should fit. Let's test it. Oh, wow, perfect. And like I told you before, I put it in there a little bit on the loosey-goosey side because I wanted to be able to pull it out easily. I can remove these. I don't know why I left them on there. The clamp made a little imprint, so let me get it out. Okay, now, voila. Now we're going to do these little magnet covers. Okie dokie, we're ready to cover the little magnet bars. Now, to do that, you're going to need to have two black chipboards at 2 chipboards. Let me see if I can get it in the light. 3 inches by 5 1/8 by 1 inch. You need 2 of these at 3 inches 5/8 by 1 inch. Then you're going to need 2 pieces of artisan cardstock in the baby blue, 2 inches by 3 5/8. 2 inches by 3 5/8. Now we're going to score this on our scoreboard with a 2-inch side at the top. Guess it'd be better if I'm in frame. With the 2-inch side at top, I'm going to score this at a 1/2 inch, and again at 1 1/2, or you can just flip it over if you want to do it that way. Okay, and that gives you your score. The reason I did that, it makes it much easier because on this one, instead of folding like this, which we did before, we're actually going to fold with both of these edges like this, and we're going to sandwich it in so that we can put the magnets here and this won't show. So what we're going to do now is we're going to glue this in place. So I'm going to take my chipboard. Again, I forgot to cap my glue. Come on. You'd think I'd have an extra glue out. I have so many of them, but it's just easier to unplug it. Now I'm going to glue this in between those scores. Just like that. Very good. Turn it over. Burnish it down a little bit. There we go. Get the glue off. Now I'm going to leave that for a moment. Go to the other one. And in between the 2 score marks, I'm going to glue this one down in place. Again, I measured that 3 5/8 length based upon this to here, okay? See, that's what covers that. If your cover is wider with the ribbon or narrower, you need to cut it to a different size. But for the length of mine, that was the correct. Now that I've got those glued in place, I'm going to go back to the first one. I'm going to score it. I'm going to bend those fibers just a smidgen. Go on over. Press that down. Bend this one. Go on over and press it down. And I'm also going to square it. You know me and my squared corners. Good. And because this video is getting so long, I'm going to go ahead and do the other one off camera once I get this one done. See, it looks like that. Now I can go in. I can actually put a little bit of glue in that crease. A little bit of glue on this flap. A little glue in that crease. And on that flap. This doesn't have to be neat, guys. This is on the back. Nobody will see this. It's going to be attached. And I'm going to fold those over. And I have to do them like that so I can make sure they go nice and smooth. Okay. And then smooth them on this side and wipe off my excess glue. Now, I'll do the other one off camera, but what I'm going to do now that I've got it finished, I'm going to double check to make sure I've got the right edge. I do. Got a little bit of paper fibers in there, so I want to get those out. Now this is going to go just like this, but before I stick it down, I'm going to turn it over. I'm going to take my magnets. I get these at Country Craft Creations. I'll put a link below. My goodness, these are the best and the best price on the market. When you get them, they have a little plastic cover you have to pop off before you can start popping out your magnets. But you need a negative and you need a positive. You want them to stick together like that. You're going to pull off one of the backings. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to probably stick the negative up here, and I'm going to stick it right like that. Now, I will tell you, I did use 3 sets of magnets on this, and let me show you why. Hang on, let me get those out. Because I want my pins and needles to all stick all the way across. So I wanted to make sure you could scrimp and do 2, but I'll be honest with you, I was afraid to do that. So again, I'm going to put the same poles on the same sides, because if I don't, my needles will go in every direction. Get it? So all of those are correct. That one's wrong. So now I'm going to go here, put it down, go here, do one more, positive and a negative. Put my negative down, so I have my positives up top. And press it in place. It's hard to hold it. Okay. Now I'm going to press those down firmly. Okay. I'm also going to be using some decorative paper on that in a little bit, so if you get it dirty, don't worry. But if you look underneath it, you'll see that they actually have the magnets on underneath that. So once I get that placed, I'm going to go over here and attach it to the top of my cover, whichever side you feel like is your cover. I went with the cleanest. So, all right, I'm going to pull my little magnet backs off, leaving them on attached to the negative. See the negative there? I'm leaving them attached so that when they place down, they'll actually line up nicely. And it doesn't make any difference where you put this. I just kind of eyeballed. I'll measure it so I can get the other end the exact same distance. Let's see here. About 1 inch. Let's see. I want to make sure they're straight. They're perfect. All right, so I'll press that down just like that. Okay? Now my pins and my needles will stick to that. And there's nothing on the bottom to come loose. If I need to take these off, I can, so that I have my straight pins with me over on the side table. Isn't that cool? Take your safety pins over with you. So these are actually removable, which makes it kind of nice, guys. All right, I'm going to go back now and do the other one and do the other side off camera. I'll be right back. All right, now I have both of my bars on there. I can pull them off. Let's see if they fit in our box. And voila. We have our cover. We have our cover here, and we have our section. Now that we've finished making our sewing box, let me show you how I ended up decorating it. I used a variety of different papers from the A Mother's Love collection, and I used the 8x8 size. The A Mother's Love collection is wonderful with all the peaches, the blues, the browns that mesh together very well to give a vintage look. And it comes with the ephemera so that you can cut those pieces out too. So I did cut out some. I used some circle punches that I had to be able to create a mat behind these pieces that I punched out. I put them down inside of the little areas here where I plan to put pin cushions. And where the magnets are, like I showed you before, I mounted them on the back so I can pull them off if I'm sewing, because I like to leave the thread on my needle. So I could take this to where I'm sitting down to darn something and pull off the threads and the needles from that. But this lid comes off, and I did border inside of the dividers there with the Mother's Love papers as well. I bordered here, and then at the top here you'll see I used a gorgeous die to cut out the natural pearl artisan cardstock, and then I used an oval die that I had on hand to be able to cut out one of the images from the collection. And then I just trimmed down an entire sheet of the 8x8 paper to make that mat to go under it. This die came from the Heartfelt Creations oval frame collection. I absolutely love it. It's got so many pieces, and it makes this beautiful ornate piece. Here's another view of it on the first sewing box that I did. Isn't that beautiful? You can layer it. You can pop it up a little bit. It's just a stunning piece. In fact, look on the front of our box here. That's the same die that I used here, except I added a different one that does the border in the natural pearl. Then I used the baby blue to artisan cardstock underneath it. On the front of the piece here, I used several different kinds of seam binding. I used the light blue, the medium blue, and the ivory ribbon, tied them all at the same time into a bow, added some lace that I had, some pearls that were strung together, used some of the ephemera that came in the package with the Mother's Love, some crochet, lace, some rickrack, buttons, just several different little things I had from my stash. Let me hold it up so you can see it a little closer there. And I did layer that. I used E6000, of course, that I got at Country Craft Creations. The buttons came from Country Craft Creations. You'll find links for the seam binding, the buttons, and everything else. I did decorate the sides and the front so that it looks complete. And I absolutely love it. And we'll compare it side by side to the other one here. Let's compare them together here. They're the same size, but just have a different look. This is the dark colors, and of course I left all the sewing supplies inside of it so that you could see it again. A little bit more of a vintage look. And then here we have a more subtle look, more of a ladylike look, I guess, just a very feminine look. And that's it, folks. I sure hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. I can't wait for you to post pictures of your own. I've got several more things in the works, so I'll see you again soon. Don't forget, visit Country Craft Creations to get your A Mother's Love exclusive paper collection. I've got the links below, and the dies from Heartfelt Creations is also available at Country Craft Creations. See you guys again soon. Bye-bye.